Sugar Mill and 44, and that drainage ditch, or whatever you want to call it, canal, continues down 44. So there's nowhere for that water to go, and I think that's part of the issue that we have. The young lady prior to me spoke to the speed limit on Sugar Mill, and so between Pioneer Trail and 44, it's 45 all the way. It doesn't change, it doesn't go 40, 35 like 44 does. It goes 65, 55, 45, 65. Anyway, so we're here hoping that we can get ahead of this. I saw in a couple of the diagrams that were shown on other slides that the height of some of the buildings, part of the buildings, was going to be 45 foot tall. How is somebody on Tate and Trace not going to walk out of their backyard and get an eyeful of that unless they build a 45-foot wall surrounding the development for the parking of RVs and boats? I think that's really the main points. There'll be other points made by those following me, but this is there's a little bit of confusion about the owners of this land and why that pond was put there to begin with. And I know we're paying for that pond to be there to the owners of the property, being the owners of the cemetery, I believe. So it wasn't put there to become part of further development. So again, we're here requesting that this be declined, and I'll turn it over to the rest of my staff. I thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Can you state your first and last name and address one more time, just for the record? Can you state your first and last name and address for the record one more time?
I don't even know my name.
Oh, okay.
It's John. I'm sorry, John Kaplan, Kaplan.
Okay. And your address?
3009 Trubbs Trace.
Thank you.
You want my title?
I don't.
Okay. Thank you.
Cindy Snezak, 512 Yukon. A slight shift here. The reason I didn't know this was going to turn into this thing, but I think you're talking about all three, or you're letting people comment about all three, but you have to vote on them one at a time, right? So that's not helping. And the fact that there was entitlements, which doesn't matter now, 45 feet for something that was approved 20 years ago, that also doesn't matter. I don't think boat storage is, more than 20, 25 feet, but nonetheless, the comment I have is traffic, because I happen to like to go to Zaxby's, and my kid loves Culver's. So the last applicant that kind of got beat up late in the game here in terms of coming before you to get things approved, you have a chance here to try out whether or not it makes a difference to have the city kind of working with the county on some things, since someone, I believe, said this is a county road, right? So I like to try to get to yes, but it's going to be a little hard on this one for two reasons. When the Panera, Zaxby's gas station thing was approved, someone had the bright idea to make it a right turn only, which means that unless you break the law and turn left, which plenty of people do, you have to turn right, and then you end up going into one of these subdivisions to do a UE and then go back out. So that's not going to change unless there's some changes made to the road. And when I get behind somebody pulling a trailer or driving a UV, as we see them zipping by these windows, it's not a car, it's huge. So somebody, it seems, would have to suck up improving the road in this area. So I don't know that that burden belongs with this applicant, but somebody with a city badge would be in a great place to use this as a case. Whether you table this or not, you vote for it or not, I don't know. We're not voting on all three at once anyway. But this would be a great opportunity to figure out exactly what kind of support and relationships our elected officials and staff and city manager have with those at a county level. So, you know, I don't want to talk about flooding and all those other things, which I think are true, but that traffic alone, you know, everybody does a traffic study, or, you know, when they're required to, but again, that commercial strip was set up to have people break the law or go onto private property to turn around. This isn't going to make that any better unless somebody sucks it up and improves it now. So if you just think about that, I'd be grateful.
Thank you.
Good evening. I'll try and make it short and sweet. My name is Tina Escarity. I'm on the board of Coastal Woods as well. I live at 3053 Neverland Drive. Our biggest concern with this, I mean, it looks like a beautiful, you know, everything looks great in the pictures, but it is backing up to Tate and Trace. We've already got a lot of flooding issues in Coastal Woods due to promises by developers and whatever. We're working with St. John's Water Management now on our far end of our development. But this backing up to Tate and Trace that was my biggest concern, that yes, they're going to do this great job, have all kinds of pretty plants around it. They're going to put concrete in, which they're saying that the water's going to flow this way, but how do we know that's what's going to happen? I mean, let's face it, we have a real issue in that area. We have a real issue in New Smyrna, period, with flooding. We know that. I've lived in this area pretty much my whole life. I've never seen it flood like it did for Ian. So, but this area has, right now, the water's just sitting. It's not going anywhere. So what is one more thing added to water going from that pond into the canals going to do? So that's our biggest concern. We bought our homes. You know, these are our forever homes. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Janet Kaplan. I live at 3009 Trubs Trace. Most of what I wanted to say tonight has already been said.
Yeah, just speak at the mic.
Oh,
Your name and address, please. They didn't pick up.
you didn't get my name and address?
Yeah, just speak at the mic.
Janet Kaplan, 3009 Trubs Trace.
Thank you.
A lot of what I wanted to say tonight has already been said by my friends and neighbors. You know, a large thing is between, I don't know how many of you have traveled up and down Sugar Mill, but the vast majority of it is only 2 lanes, and it's very curvy. And between 44 and Pioneer Trail back there, we're surrounded by 44, Sugar Mill, Pioneer Trail. Between there's just up and down Sugar Mill, I was sitting back there trying to count the number of subdivisions, and I believe that I came up with 6. That's a lot of people coming and going. I'm really not sure. I'm kind of surprised there's not more people here tonight. We could keep you here all night. I'm not sure how the notifications go, but I know, like, we just found out about this a couple of nights ago. So I'm sure there's other subdivisions that have no clue that this is going on. But then we also have the cemetery right across the street. There's just so much going on right there already. I saw on the PowerPoint that it's a rumor that there's a GeoSam agreement. Well, I happen to know that I don't know if it's this exact parcel of property, but there is a 30-year lease agreement. And we pay the bill. The last one was paid on March of 2025. So something exists. So I guess my main thing, rather than boring you with saying all the same things everybody's already said, is could we perhaps table this to give everybody a little time to do a little more research and figure this out? because it's just not right now I'm saying it's just not a good idea. The traffic, the floodwaters, everything. And I think we all know that the more concrete you put out, the more flooding you're going to have. And that's all I have.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Steve Gunter, 140 Tipple Street, New Smyrna Beach. Thank you for allowing us to give you our opinions. I never see that they make a difference, to be honest. We have comprehensive plans. It seems like every time a developer or somebody comes into town, we change our plan. Like our neighborhoods, everything has to change because they don't want to design around what we have as a plan. So you just change them all the time, making these amendments. So why don't we just get rid of the comprehensive plan? Be easy. But this is going to be a PUD and a commercial property. I see it as elevated concrete and asphalt, metal roofs. I live 1.5 miles downstream from this development. And if you looked at our conveyance route, that's a 5-gallon bucket. It's full. Everybody that stood up here told you the ditches are full. The canal down the bike path, that thing got totally blown out. Our system can't handle any more water. So I would say to not just this development, but all of that development west of town, that people come in here and want to elevate because immediately it deflects that water. So nothing goes up on that property ever again. And when the gentleman stood up here and said, we're putting it out to the ditch, that's not taking care of it for the community. Until it gets to the river and out the inlet, we're all sort of a target downstream. I had knee-deep water in my bedroom. And some of this, when people say, well, we're going to have the St. John's Water Management look at it, I've got to tell you, those guys are handpicked by those pro-development people sitting up there at the state, and they're here to rubber stamp these projects for developers. They're not here to protect we, the citizens. Anyway, I don't want to go on. I'm going to actually cut this short, and I'll just read you one short. It's a state law. HB 503-403.814, parentheses 12, the project does not cause adverse water quantity or flooding impacts to the receiving waters in the adjacent lands and adverse impacts to the existing surface water storage and conveyance capabilities. They do not have the conveyance capability right out of the box. The people in Coastal Woods sounds like they've been using that property for water storage in that area, and whether it's legal or not legal, that's what's been happening. But we're all going underwater. Thank you.
Thank you.
Pat Scott, 112 Eddy Road. Okay, I also live in Ellison Acres where Steve lives. And what I see is because, I'll have to tell you where I live. I live right by next to the Frozen Gold, and across the street is that business over there. Now, I have watched how we, as unincorporated areas and lower lands, have been slowly being damaged over the time. And this one is going to damage us too. When the water gets full in Turnbull, it comes downhill. We're downhill. Not only that, they put an RV place over by Dora, and that place started to flood more. And the only reason I know that, I happened to be talking to somebody at a drawing class, and she was one of the people that got flooded after they built that one. And it's right on Dora Road. So I would say no. You shouldn't be doing that. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Okay, it looks like public participation is closed. City staff, any further comments?
Just a couple of clarifications. The building height is proposed at 25 feet, so that's written into the MDA text itself, not the 45 feet, where that came from. And I guess I need to emphasize that this is a request for a use. It's not an engineered site plan yet at this point. This is just a concept for them to go ahead and have a maximum of 147 storage spaces on the property. If this gets approved, they'll come back for a site plan, and again, this would come back to you. The building square footage is over 41,000 square feet, so between that and the pavement number of spaces, you'd be seeing that and approving the site plan whenever that does get engineered. And your questions about turn lanes should be settled at that time. The stormwater issues, it's all going to be considered in that, any impacts on the floodplain. So again, this is just allowing them the use and for them to go ahead and actually do the engineering.
And did you say this was approved previously for a residential unit?
It was approved in the county for 93 multifamily units, and they had 5 years to build under that and never did, so it expired.
Okay.
But it's still got the same PUD zoning in the county. At that time, the future land use on this property was activity center, which is much more intense than any other future land use we have. So that's how they got that number of units permitted on that property.
So if they brought that over in New Smyrna Beach, would they have 93 units still?
No, because right now the county future land use is medium density. And typically, unless they request a different one like they are now for commercial, we just use our closest applicable, which is medium density. They both are a maximum of 8 units an acre. And that's why when they first came in to meet with us, we said one of the things that we would want to see is the density restrictions that apply now be transferred onto it, even if it was changed to commercial.
Are there any other lots or land there close by that's already labeled commercial?
Actually, there is. I don't know if we have the exhibit in our PowerPoint, but the proposed future land use exhibit that is in the agenda, that shows other commercial further north here, where Pioneer Trail and Sugar Mill mix. There's that existing convenience store in one corner, but the two other corners that are wooded and vacant actually have commercial land use in there. One's straight zoning and the other is part of a PUD for the subdivision just south of it.
Thank you.
So does it require annexation to be developed?
Pardon me?
Does it require the annexation into NSB to be developed, right? That's the first part of this is a annexation.
Yes.
Right.
If we didn't do that, is there still availability for development of that land?
Well, they could develop in the county, remain in the county, and go to them for their, whatever they can develop under their regulations.
Understood. Just a different regulations from county
Right.
to city. Right.
Right.
Do you know if the county current land use regulations would allow this use, or would it require rezoning for there?
The counties?
Yeah.
I'm not that familiar. Their future land use, even though it's primarily residential, medium density residential, does allow for a certain limited amount of commercial uses within that future land use.
Is this pretty much surrounded by residential? The property? You got residential on both sides, north, south, east, and west?
It is, but to the west and the south, that's all part of the, or it was part of Coastal Woods PUD, but that was the commercial part. Everything south of the utility corridor was originally approved, but when Geosam had it as Coastal Woods for a pretty intense commercial use. And that's what the hospital bought. They actually bought the vested entitlements, and it's basically a matrix for traffic analysis. So whatever was vested under Geosam's commercial approval at that time, was converted by traffic engineers to be transferred to Advent Health, and they came in with their PUD that covered most of the Coastal Woods commercial PUD, but left these portions out of it. Actually, they have one piece here, the one on this aerial map, just to the south of that property. It's got a weird shape on its west boundary. That is part of Advent Health's PUD because the stormwater pond that was designed in the middle of that PUD was designed to empty into this. So ultimately, there's a plan for that to be dug out as an excavation for a retention too.
The development next door, the Narms development, how many units did they put over there on that piece of land, and how big was that land?
The one to the south where they're doing the ongoing construction?
Yes.
Yeah, that was part of the Coastal Woods PUD, and it's just had a real severe reduction in density. I think it was approved originally for like a 3-story central multifamily building, about, I remember 271 units, and now they're down to 188 units, so it's a pretty big reduction in density. But according to the activity center, where it's in, and to their PUD, the density allowed was 18 units an acre. So much more high than anything surrounding this.
Jeff, could you just briefly describe what a PUD is? Because each property surrounding this property is also zoned as a PUD. So would you just give a brief description as?
Well, yeah. Everything surrounding this property on the west side of Sugar Mill Drive is part of the Coastal Woods PUD. There's some areas that are on Sugar Mill on the west side. I believe that the Landings is the name, or
I think there's 2 parcels across the street that are agricultural. One is a private residence and one is the cemetery. But yes, there is another residential across the street, that Sarah Nicole Drive, that is also a PUD.
right. There's the Serena Lakes PUD on the east side of the road, just a little bit south of this property. And that was done at the density, I think, of 12 units an acre.
Was your recommendation along the lines of this development reduces traffic and density? Is that where you?
We've had so many inquiries for RV and boat storage. At one point, it was almost daily. And to the point where, our old director called it storage fatigue, because we just couldn't figure out places for people to do this. Nobody seems to want them nearby, but it's actually seems like a pretty benign use. There was that one that came before you for along US 1, that real strange property.
The long property?
Right, a half-mile long and 100 feet deep. He's actually called me recently and indicated that everything they work out, everybody he talks to, his RV boat storage on that property won't be feasible just because of the costs involved. He's got that ditch to go over with 2 driveways, and so he had asked about the possibility of, since he's approved for storage, if he could convert that to mini warehouse storage, like one single story. And that seemed like a reasonable alternative to me, but I'm just pointing that out because we still don't have any boat or RV storage, and where you do see it, a lot of it's kind of cropped up illegally in some of the infill properties closer to town.
Any other questions from the board for staff?
One more. So this approval just is about annexation. It isn't about giving them anything or clarifying with the in and outs or anything else about the property?
Well, it's three things: the annexation, the change in the future land use to commercial with those stipulations,
The rezoning.
and the PUD, which is specific to this RV boat storage use. And again, it's just a conceptual plan. By the time they do the engineering, they could end up with 80 spaces. You know, that's not unusual. They'll ask for the maximum, and you know, it turns out to be too expensive or not possible to engineer on the property. And that hasn't been done yet that I know of. But so you'll be voting on those three things separately. I had asked the applicant today, in fact, how they wanted to deal with that. If they wanted all three together as one package, or if, you know, one or two would be okay. And they had indicated then that, you know, that it's all three tied together. So.
And all we're doing is making a recommendation to the commission.
Right.
They will then take it up and do their public meetings and readings and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
And then they'll make the final decision. We're just recommending that they consider it.
Mm-hmm.
And a question for Grant, is this considered a quasi-legislative or a quasi-judicial kind of action here? For the zoning?
Legislative. Legislative.
Thank you.
Could I ask, what is projected to be the percentage of boat rentals there? How many spaces do they think would be boat rental? You know, that type of thing. Got any idea?
Their plan shows a maximum of 147.
But so they could do 147 boats rather than RVs?
Yeah, we're not, they just have spaces of certain dimensions, and they're mixed. They vary by length and width.
Okay. So if it was that many boats and trailers, there's a possibility of upwards of 70-80% of those on Saturdays and Sundays that would go in and out, which would really not be relative to what the amount of trips that RVs make. So it could really be quite trafficky if you had boat storage, because they're going to be the river-type boats. You know, they're going to be the ones that we see down on North Causeway. And my thing is what if it was 100 and some 16 to 30-foot boats that were in and out of there Saturdays and Sundays? That's a tremendous amount of traffic, of that type of traffic.
That could conceivably happen. I don't know if everybody uses their boat every weekend, but
I can attest they do not.
yeah. But there's a similar boat storage facility on West Canal that is enclosed, and you know, it's got the big garage doors facing the street and goes back pretty deep. I forget how many spaces are in there, but maybe about 80. I can't say I ever saw anybody going in and out with a boat. It's not like I travel there regularly, but
Yeah, you probably got a little bit more with the boats versus an RV, certainly, but yeah, they're relatively quiet,
No, you're right. Yeah, no, I just wondered.
but anything's possible. Okay. No more
I mean,
questions for staff? Or
the other boat storage places I can think of is All Aboard on US 1 and Industrial Drive. They have boat storage there. Again, I haven't seen any impacts. The self-storage that's off of Eddy Road, that on Rizzoli by Winn-Dixie, there's a number of boats there. And again, I don't know if I've seen regular traffic there or even any, so that's just anecdotal on
Sure,
my case.
sure. I'm sure there's studies. If no more questions for staff, I believe the applicant probably has some statements. Thank you, Jeff.
All righty, good evening again, Joey Posey. Just to address some concerns I heard. As the more or less roughly the distance that we're talking about from the back of the lot there to the property line at the closest point is about 160 feet. That's a substantial distance, and that doesn't include the buffer. And also the back-facing building. So you're talking a lot of buffer all the way to the most impacted person off of Coastal Woods. The other thing too is Jeff was correct that if you go to Pioneer and Sugar Mill, that corner, 3 out of the 4 corners actually have commercial future land use. So, that's not unusual for this area, even with the activity center too. I guess I can understand the point regarding maybe if you're talking immediately adjacent to Coastal Woods, but to suggest that the area doesn't have commercial, it just isn't true. Also the clarification too is that the county's future land use explicitly states that neighborhood commercial, shopping centers, those are permitted commercial uses in the urban medium intensity. It explicitly states that. So that's the type of intensity impacts they're talking about that are currently allowed on this property. And that's why we agreed to cap the FAR at 0.05 or 0.5. That's the same FAR that would otherwise be entitled under the county. Jeff had mentioned the height. He clarified that. We were referring to the old PUD when the 45 feet came up. That's not being proposed. And I didn't want to, I didn't think I'd have to go here, but I'm certain about the 30 years because I'm the one that actually drafted those documents. So I know for certain that the cemetery agreement is that property to the north of the power line. I didn't want to mention it, but I was the one that drafted them. So I have personal knowledge that it does not include this property. They're welcome to go verify and check again, and I'm welcome to give them the documents if they'd like to. But, again, it's just not true. That's to suggest as if this property is somehow in relation to that development and discharges on that development. The other things that, again, just to highlight again, it's the lowest impact in terms of when you're talking about the commercial just body of uses, that you're talking about such a low trip generator that people don't come and go when it comes to these facilities. They park it. On occasion, on a holiday, they'll come get it. That's the extent of the use. And when you're talking about new users, somebody isn't coming from out of town and saying, oh my gosh, there's a storage facility, let me park my RV there and then take it to the beach. It's somebody who probably is local that wants somebody to store it because their HOA or their community doesn't allow them to have something like that, or keeping it in the driveway is kind of skirting the rules. Those are the folks that would be served by this facility. So
I have a question. Do you mind just a little clarity from the engineer on the responsibilities of the water on the property and what it does exactly? I can't say that that's what the engineers are here for. Just to explain a little bit that your requirements of what you have to do with that property and the stormwater that occurs on that property.
And the last point, just to mention, we were looking at about, I think, and this is anecdotal too, but about 3/4 RV is usually where these things kind of end up. So maybe that helps, but.
It does.
Harry Newkirk, Newkirk Engineering. The state rules, City of New Smyrna Beach, Volusia County, they'll be involved because the right-of-way is Volusia County with the stormwater. So there's going to be 3 sets of eyes on it as far as looking at the stormwater. Stormwater, state rules, my PE license, we cannot design this site where we affect the public, the surrounding neighborhoods, and cause flooding. That's the rules. That's in the Florida statutes, and it boils down into St. Johns River Water Management District, into Volusia County, and into the city's regulations. This thing will be designed not specifically to discharge into the ditch. It has to discharge into all the areas around the site. So if there's flow going to the west, you're allowed to discharge to the west, east, north, south. So when you design it, you develop how much volume and the speed the water is coming off in all directions of this site. And when you get done with the design, you cannot increase in any direction, period. That's what the city's gonna be looking at, their engineers, that's what the county's gonna look at.
Do you mind if I ask how that's measured after the fact?
Okay, so to measure how this works, we look at a 25-year storm, a 100-year storm, and it generates a certain amount of water off the site, and we measure existing conditions in a wooded site, how it is right here today, versus what it looks like when it's developed with all the pavement and all, the final product, what we're presenting tonight. So you compare and they call it pre-development versus post-development. Post cannot be more than pre. With the new regulations, they involve a lot more stormwater than what Coastal Woods is designed on the old regulations. Right. That's a wet detention pond system, period. Now we can't do that. All the developers wish they could do that still.
The code is more restrictive now.
It's more restrictive, costs more money to develop, and protects the public a lot more with the new stormwater rules.
Understood. I just wanted some clarity on that fact.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you. That's it? Okay.
I've got one more question for you. I'm just curious. If under the existing county regulations and zoning, you think that this project should go under the county, why didn't you do that, and why are you coming to New Smyrna Beach?
I think just by chance, to be honest with you. We have a developer that was involved with the Isles. Right. It's just he's used to developing in New Smyrna, so he's very familiar with this area. So that was part of why we engaged staff to say, well, is this possible? Is this something that you guys could support? Is this something that we think the community needs? And that was really the long and the short of the conversation. I have not had a conversation with the county suggesting that, hey, would you guys support this or not support this? And again, it's a question of if it gets to that. I mean, I can have that discussion. But we did not. I'm being completely transparent. We didn't have that discussion.
Completely transparent, but it seems like coming here, you
would
have to request a change to the commercial, where you believe you have that in the county.
Well, I'd still need to go through the full rezoning process since the agreement lapsed. I'd still be required to go through 2 public hearings, a planning board. It's the same term in terms of time. It doesn't change my time. So it's the same path, just a different jurisdiction.
Okay.
That's the long. I mean, that's again being fully transparent. Jeff is correct that original agreement lapsed, but again, it was shown as compatible. I mean, that is something that was found to be deemed compatible with the county code. Whether there's a certain different design to what product we propose here, and the county has a difference of opinion as to how that shakes out and the entitlements associated with, possible. That is possible. But what we have here is, I think, a good product for New Smyrna, the area residents, and in terms of impact control, making sure that this property doesn't turn into something else. I mean, that's also the consideration of why we're here too. That you have a developer that's willing to put the money in for a low impact use, and if the questions that I keep hearing are traffic and the impacts to residents, I can't think of a better use. And what I get hesitant about is this just an exercise in telling us no? Is that what I want? They want, and I don't want that for them. I want something that would look nice, that complements the area. It's quiet, and I think that's the best neighbor you can ask for.
Mr. Engineer, obviously the residents are worried about the water shedding off of this property and onto theirs, of course, by way of the right-of-ways. If this property, you get into a heavy rain and you get it over 2, 3, 4 days, I mean, how do you state that it will not be part of the water that ends up into their neighborhoods? I mean, it's so flat out there, and there really is there's no lakes, bigger lakes, there's no rivers or anything for it to go to. So my question would be, how do you kind of guarantee that to the residents out there that, it doesn't matter, our water's not going to go there? How do you make that? Because I say that in total ignorance. If I live down the street, I'd want to know, okay, you're going to follow all the regulations. I have no question about that. But it looks like people are skeptical because of the past, that regulations, even late, over the last 1 or 2 year regulations, were followed. But yet some of them are underwater or have a lot of water. My question is, how do you explain that to the audience, the residents of the area?
So this site is going to control where we discharge. And when we do, it's going to be less than what's coming off the site right now. So when you look at stormwater, if you're saying right now in a vacant site, this site's flooding the neighborhoods out, right? When we get done with construction, we're going to actually discharge less water off the site, thus making an improvement to the surrounding ditch system. We are not going to put more water than is coming off right now. And when you do that, you're going to have less impacts to the downstream properties.
Right.
We have to show that. And with the new rules and how much water you got to put on these sites, and the fact that stormwater is different now. Stormwater, you got to perk on site now. You can't just go into a pond and shoot it out into the ditch. We're now perking, we're basically pre-treating the site. So when you get 5 inches of rain, this site doesn't even discharge. It perks. It discharges off property in high intensity storm events above like a 25-year storm. We're talking hurricanes is when it gets off the property, when everyone is concerned on flooding. But even in that storm event, plus even higher than those stormwater events, the water is going to be less in the ditches. We're putting less out there. So I believe, and I know with the way the new rules work, that we're an improvement to those ditch systems.
Yeah, I don't know if you want the design of the property, of how he does it. This is what you study.
No,
right, this is what you do, this is what you study, so the property and the design of it.
Yeah, we're going to be a benefit. With this design is going to benefit the ditch system on Sugar Mill with less water than what's coming off there right now.
Any more questions for the applicant? No. Thank you.
Thank you.
Discussion by the board? Okay. So I will ask a motion for each one.
Yes,
at
please.
this point. Is there a motion to approve the requested annexation?
I make a motion to approve the annexation, and that is, I think, falling under category ZT-8.
Or next one down, 5B.
Oh, my bad.
5B.
5B, A-0006-2025, 390 Sugar Mill Road annexation.
Do I have a second?
Second it.
Stephanie, can we have a roll call to vote?
Member Hodges?
Yes.
Member Hall?
Yes.
Member Causey?
Yes.
Member Bean?
Yes.
Member Yates?
Yes.
And Member Holvershorn.
Yes.
On the motion to recommend approval of the City Commission for A-6-25, 390 Sugar Mill Drive, the vote is 6 in favor, 0 opposed, and motion passes.
Is there a motion to approve the requested small-scale comprehensive plan amendment? 5C?
I make a motion to recommend the City Commission approve the requested comprehensive plan amendment to change the future land use to city commercial as part of the annexation, including the 2 stipulated limitations on density to a minimum, or rather maximum, 8 units per acre and a maximum FAR of 0.5. That's CPA-2 005-2025.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Stephanie?
Member Causey?
Yes.
Member Bean?
No.
Member Hall?
No.
Member Gates? Actually, hold on. Member Holvershorn?
No.
Member Hodges?
No.
And Chair Yates?
Yes.
That is. On the motion to recommend approval to City Commission for CPA 5-25, the vote is 2 in favor, 4 opposed. The motion fails.
Do we continue? The third one is separate.
So all 3 of these are recommendations to the city commission. So you can vote as you did. That's a negative recommendation. You should vote on the next one in terms of that as well.
It's separate.
All three of them will continue to city commission.
Understood. Okay, is there a motion to approve the requested small-scale comprehensive plan amendment? 5D.
I'll make a motion to recommend to the city commission to approve the proposed PUD zoning and its associated master development agreement conceptual design plan.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, Member Bean?
No.
Member Causey?
Yes.
Member Hall?
No.
Member Holvershorn?
No.
Member Hodges?
No, ma'am.
And Chair Yates?
Yes.
The motion to recommend approval to City Commission for PUD-6-25. The vote is 2 in favor, 4 opposed. The motion is denied or fails.
Okay. Comments or statements by the members? If none, development activity, reports from communication by staff.
I put in front of you these little flyers that we have to remind you that we do have a special election coming up on November 4th. These are also in the lobby if anybody else would like to grab one. Please educate yourself on the charter amendments that have moved forward for a special election November 4th. Also, I want to thank those of you that joined us at the APA conference for the board member training. I appreciate the attendance. That's all I've got.
Thank you. This meeting is adjourned.